Now, there's this thought experiment called Marry the Color Scientist, and the way it goes is that there is this scientist who lives in a black and white world and has no concept of color other than shades in grayscale, and her name is Mary. And this scientist studies the concept of color, and let's say she's studying the color green, and she is learning about everything there is to know about the color green, including the wavelengths, how that works, how it reflects off the retina and sends optic nerve signals through the optic nerve to your brain. And she understands what types of things are typically green. She knows what makes plants green. She knows how the light interacts and how the electromagnetic spectrum works. And she knows everything there is to know about the color green. But she has never seen green before because she lives in a black and white world. And so the thought experiment, after setting up all of that and saying like just imagine that there's everything you could possibly know about the color green except having seen green. If you could hypothetically have someone know all of that, would they also know what it's like to see the color green? It's some debate, I guess, in philosophy about whether there's a thing called qualia and whether or not that exists. And it's just an interesting thing to think about because we learn about things, but then there's also the direct experience of things. And the question is whether that direct experience is just an assemblage of all those other things that we learn about it and then put it together into, or if it's like a unique thing that can only be learned by actually experiencing that thing. You're listening to Start Point, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board, and you'll notice that introduction had nothing to do with Go, but there's a reason I brought it up to give you a little context for a little, I'll wrap around, basically, is what I'm trying to say, to Marry the Color Scientist. So remember that thought experiment, and I'll come back to it later on in the episode. But today's topic is, well, let's be in agreement here among Starpoint listeners that Go is a good game. It is a great game. It might even be the greatest game of all time. But we can all agree that Go is a fantastic game. Even people who don't play Go acknowledge the greatness of this game. But that kind of begs the question, what even makes a good game? What is a good game exactly? How can there be good and bad games? They're just games, right? And they serve different purposes. Some arguments might be made. Well, we're going to go through all that. I'm going to have an amateurish attempt at disassembling this question and applying it to the game of Go and to see why Go might be an awesome game. And to do that, I'm going to talk about maybe what doesn't make a good game or what makes a bad game. This topic in particular of like what makes a good game, what makes a bad game, that's a very common topic of discussion when it comes to video games. That's just the thing, right? A new video game is released and people say, is it good? How good is it? What makes it good? Right? And they're constantly critiquing these games, but not really often discussed in the classic game genre, things that have been around for a while, like gin rummy or checkers or chess or Go or Senet. These weird abstract games that have stood the test of time. Even like Snakes and Ladders. We don't really talk about whether that's a good one or a bad one. It's just a classic. It's in the bag. But I want to bring the spotlight back to these classic games a little bit, but in particularly Go, and see whether it's a good game or a bad game. And I want to also just kind of define the scope of this thing, focusing on competitive games, right? Rather than like video game single player experiences, and maybe even cooperative games or games that don't really feel like games. Things like that, I will kind of put out of the equations. Now, this definition of game we're going to deal with in the episode is one where you can interact with one or several other players and compete with them in the game. Okay, is that clear enough? So let's start the simplest of the simple, tic-tac-toe. So let's just talk about whether tic-tac-toe is a good game. Well, what is tic-tac-toe good for? It's good for learning what a game is, right? It's like the introduction to games, almost. You would almost, if you wanted to teach a monkey, or a chimpanzee rather, how to play a game, you might start with something like tic-tac-toe. There are probably chimpanzees who are very good at tic-tac-toe. And then there's just a clear objective, then you're competing for it, where if you guys don't know how to play tic-tac-toe, you're probably not human, right? Like if you don't know how to play tic-tac-toe, you're probably not a human being. Unless I'm just kind of like, there are parts of the world that I'm just completely oblivious to, where tic-tac-toe is a complete foreign. I would love to hear about that. If you go to any part of the world and you draw the tic-tac-toe thing and start putting X's and O's and they don't know what you're doing, I would be fascinated to hear about that corner of the earth where that has not reached. But I think I speak for many when I say it's a very ubiquitous game. But when you start playing, you start noticing certain things about it. As you grow older, imagine you learn this as a young child. As you grow older, you start wondering like, hey, wait a second. Some of the spots on here in the 3x3 grid are more important than others. And then you start noticing, wait a second, when I lose or when I win, it's usually because I have put two possibilities of victory where you cannot deny both at the same time. Interesting. Starts to become strategy. Then you get a little older, a little wiser, and then you realize, oh, this game you can memorize and never lose. So here lies the first problem with some games. They're solvable. They are reduced to some other thing. And I think that's going to be a common theme this episode. But basically, tic-tac-toe is not a good game because you can just memorize, like it's very easy to learn how to just always draw this game. Takes very minimal effort to do so. And that takes the excitement and interest out of the game quite easily. So if the game is too easy to solve, that usually means it's not a great game. Ideally, the game is not solvable or so far from solvable that no human being could possibly solve it. I think that is one good criteria for what a good game should be. It shouldn't be something you could completely flatten with your with an easy strategy. Now, on the other side of the simple game spectrum, which I consider to be a greater game than tic-tac-toe, is the rock, paper, scissors. Now, I wonder which game. I think rock, paper, scissors might be even more ubiquitous than tic-tac-toe, although there are many different variations of it, and people use different symbols, and there are slightly different routines. Some people say Rochambeau, some people say 1, 2, 3, shoot, which I never understood. Like, I always grew up saying the words rock, paper, scissors as I played. That was in Canada. And fun fact, Koreans, they play a very fun variation called mukjipa, which is a better game even than rock, paper, scissors. where you try to get your opponent to use the same symbol as you. It's a very fun game. If someone's interested, I'll maybe expand upon that in some other episode or comment. But rock, paper, scissors. What is this game? This is like a random game, right? It's a chance game almost. Now, I know rock, paper, scissors can get very serious, and you can kind of mind game it a lot, and that makes it an even better game too. But the core of the game, the intention of the game really is this kind of randomized coin flip style thing. So in that regard, it is never solvable. You can never consistently win forever or draw forever in rock, paper, scissors. By nature of it, it's a randomized game. You actually have no agency, really. More agency than, let's say, you're competing rolling dice. That's completely, literally out of your hands. And rock, paper, scissors literally is your hands. So you have that amount of agency. But it's really a toss-up. And I think the intrigue comes from just the nature of the symbols. And so that adds a little spice to it. And I think that makes it a better game than it may have been if like, you know, I don't know. It's kind of hard to make it a generic game. Like, even if I say 1, 2, 3, and 3 beats 1, 1 beats 2, 2 beats 3, there's some psychology to that as well. So it's kind of hard to neutralize completely. But I would say it's better than rolling dice, but not as good as something like chance-based like poker, which is an excellent game. So rock, paper, scissors, also, although it's never solvable, unlike tic-tac-toe, I think lacks the agency needed for a good game. So a good game seems to need not to be solvable, and then also have a high amount of agency. And what does Go have in these regards? Go is maybe arguably the least solvable game. I mean, if you're talking about like stable games where you put down a move and then it's not like a physics-based thing, right? We obviously, like, sports and things like that are not solvable either. But if we're talking simply like strategy games, board games, like it's not solvable. And then also such like overwhelming degree of agency with Go. You have so many possibilities, and none of them are for sure. So far we're doing pretty good on the avoiding bad game features in the Go section. So next topic I want to talk about here in regards to what makes a good game. Now this is a little bit of, if my friends are listening who like this game, this is going to be a dig at them. But there's this mobile game called Brawl Stars. I don't know if you guys heard of it. I'm not really much of a mobile gamer. But this game is, as far as I understand, it's like a 3v3 brawler. Top down, I think it's like, imagine... I don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't played enough to know. But what I noticed immediately from the onset of trying this game out, and what made me kind of sour on it so quickly, was that, well, in typical mobile game fashion, they try to monetize your experience, and, well, that's obviously already a turnoff. But what makes it worse is that you level up your account, and when you enter into a game, that account level gives you a stronger or weaker character during the actual game. Are you following me? So if I start playing and I have like a level 1 character and I go into the game and I'm like, okay, great, I'm going to start playing with these guys. And then my opponents have these like level 3 characters. I will not have a good time because my opponent will be stronger than me and they will have advantages. It's not like League of Legends where you start off at 0 every game. That's what I'm saying, is like there's slight advantages and disadvantages. Now, they don't go crazy and pair you with a level 50 or anything, but it's there. And that on principle is bad to me, because what is a game if it isn't fair? Fairness is such an important quality that a good game should have. Any advantages and disadvantages within the game system are bad. Anything that you can conceive as an advantage or disadvantage in a game should be external to the game, right? So if I'm arm wrestling somebody, right? Somebody might be stronger than me, and that's an advantage that they have that they bring to the table, but that's okay because the game of arm wrestling itself is fair and you start at the middle. It would be unfair if the person who is born in July gets to have like 15 degrees of leeway on the arm wrestle or something, some weird rule like that, right? And you can see what other games do to try to fix the problem of fairness. Like with chess and with Go, we actually acknowledge that the game is unfair by nature. Chess players know for sure that there's a higher win rate with white because you go first, and that does give you an advantage. And same for Go. The first move is advantageous. So what do? Well, chess players, they typically play more than one game, depending on how serious it is, obviously. And I don't really know the rituals of how you assign color, but they acknowledge that it's there and they want to randomize that at the very least. With Go, not only do we try to randomize the color assignment with our nigiri routine, we also try to fix the problem with the concept of komi, which didn't come until way later into the Go's history, but it's there. 6.5 points in Japanese rules for white for going second, roughly approximating the value of the first move. So, or it's like I believe it's like a half estimation to balance it out. But anyway, fairness, very important. Games should be fair, right? If a game isn't fair, or it's, I don't know, just wrong. I can't really explain in a better, more intellectual way than that. But this is something very intuitive to us as human beings as we start off in preschool and we immediately start pointing at things that are not fair. And that is just how it rolls. Funny story, actually. I was listening to a podcast with Reddit stories, and there was a story about some guy who went to a hot chicken wing eating competition. And he says that he has this unnaturally high tolerance for capsaicin and was able to demolish the competition because of this unique biological advantage. And so his friends had a problem with that, saying that normal people should have been able to compete with one another for that instead of you with your weird biological advantage coming in and destroying the competition, which really reminded me of that scene in The Incredibles where at the very end, Dash, who is like the Flash and is very, very fast, and he's a kid and he's competing at track. And his dad is like, "Oh, don't go too fast. Oh, hold on, just like pull it back just a bit. Okay, go for it." And just trying to be among the normies. But I thought that was funny because, you know, that advantage that they have is their advantage. That's their physical advantage. But the hot chicken wing competition is simply a neutral thing that says, hey, can you eat these wings? And how many wings can you eat? Or whatever it was, right? It's not like, oh, for this demographic of people, men ages 35 to 40, you must eat this many wings. I mean, they could do that, but that's not what it was. That's not the game, right? So it's all's fair, right? All's fair and hot chicken wings and snakes and ladders. Anyway, fairness is very important, and that's why I don't like Brawl Stars. Okay, so the next one is, I don't think I have a good example of it because games that violate this rule, and maybe you guys have experience with some kind of board game or video game that violates this, but I think that if the game isn't well defined or clear, right? I think actually a lot of board games fall into this, but usually not the good ones. I try to play good ones, right? I try to pre-vet the board games and make sure people like it before I go out and buy it. But I'm sure many board games fall into this category. especially the failed ones. But games without clear rules are just destined to fail, and they're not good games. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're playing a game involving some kind of ball, and you got to hit it, to your teammates or whatever. And one of the rules is that the ball is deemed out of bounds if it goes too far from the main area of play. Now that sounds reasonable, right? If you're starting to play a casual game among your friends and you're making this up as you go, and you're like, out of bounds is too far, right? Out of bounds if it goes too far from the main area of play. There's a lot of questions there. Like, what is the main area of play? What exactly is too far, right? And you're like, oh yeah, like over by neighbor Welkins' house or something, right? And that may work as children. But as the game develops and is meant to be played over time with other people in mind, that's just not going to cut it. You have to have very clear rules, cutting down to the nitty gritty of every single possible thing that could happen, which is why it's actually pretty hard to start watching some sports. People will jump in, and the premise of the game may be kind of simple, but then you start realizing, oh, okay, there's these penalties. Okay, why is this a penalty? Oh, what if this penalty happens before this happens? And you're like, whoa, there's all this stuff. You need clarity and definition and rules for a good game to exist. It's just a must, because a game is an environment and a framework for people to have fun in or compete in. And if that framework it has a hole in it, the whole thing just kind of collapses almost. And that's why Lidgate happened. To be honest, the rules should be clear. It's just be very. Maybe they were clear, and I might start another debate here. But clarity of rules, very, very, very important. All right, now this next one might be a controversial take, but I have another example of a bad game for you guys. Monopoly. I think Monopoly is a bad game. The reason being that there is an exploit. And cheesability, I think, in a game is always going to be bad. It's kind of like in tic-tac-toe when you're able to memorize it, which is, I think, it's a slightly different thing, because memorizing the game, it just kind of happens, and it's almost emergent. But in Monopoly, it's almost, and it's very related to the clarity thing too, because it doesn't seem to have been thought out. But the cheese is here, if you want to win Monopoly, I haven't tried this myself, but I know people who have. If you buy all the houses in Monopoly without upgrading to hotels, so if every time you land on a space, you buy a house, and as every opportunity you can, you buy a house, and you don't upgrade to your hotels ever, eventually you run out of houses to buy. And actually that stock is not just for you, but for everybody involved. And so what happens? You can't buy houses anymore. And because you didn't convert any to hotels, there's the economy of houses is completely crashed, and you can't upgrade anything, and you basically win. Now, it's got to be patched, right? Like you got to figure something out to fix that game. But so it's not just Monopoly, but other games where you can use one little thing to nullify all the other game mechanics, like, not unbalanced fighting games, right? Most fighting games kind of have that spammy character, but they acknowledge that it's counterable with enough skill, and like they kind of balance it out. But if you have a fighting game with that one spammy character who can just button mash that one move, and you can't do anything, and there's no workaround to it, I'm sorry, but that's a bad game, right? If a game is becomes reduced to a competition of something other than the purpose of the game, then I think it's a flawed game. And that's kind of reminds me of something in Go where we fought back against the AI, and we found an exploit as to how to defeat the AI, and it's not traditional good Go, but playing a certain pattern that the AI is unable to kind of process. That's an exploit in the AI, not in the game of Go. And Go is like the least cheesable game. Okay. Here's the one thing that you can cheese with Go. Mirror Go. That's the one thing. Although it's counterable, right? It's like an annoying strat, but a good enough player will easily beat someone who is not as good, and all they're doing is playing Mirror Go. If you watch Hikaru no Go, you know, right? You know that's what happens. So it's not really a terrible thing, but it is like the one cheesable thing in Go. Go is looking pretty good. It's fair. It's very clear in the rules. It may not be easy to pick up those rules, but everything is defined. If you look at an experienced Go player and you bring them in to solve this dispute on something, they'll just kind of immediately tell you this is how it is, and it's just very clear. And if you read not the instructions, but the official rules of various Go organizations, they're very well thought out and they're very well written. Another feature of a game, I think, that is very important is that it is human compatible. Now, this is just a list of things that we as humans kind of require from a game. It shouldn't take too long. It shouldn't take, for example, 200 years to play, right? Now, this isn't like a universal rule of what makes a good game. Like if there are species that live that long, maybe that's a good game to them. But for our purposes, it should have these constraints. Like you should be able to keep most of the rules in your head, at least the important ones. You shouldn't have to consult a rule book every single move you make or every single second of the game because you don't know all the rules. It shouldn't require millions of dollars of rare equipment to play. I wouldn't consider that a good game. I would maybe consider that an incredible sporting event, but it's not a good game for humans to enjoy. It shouldn't be dangerous, right? It should be safe. Like if I am considering, what is that, five finger fillet? I don't know if that's a good game, man. Like I don't know if that's a good game to be playing. It's exciting and exhilarating, but it is dangerous. And so I think that is personally a requirement for a good game for me, that it's not dangerous. It shouldn't do things like require 4 limbs, right? I'm just saying that the game should have overall human experience in mind. And luckily, since we are humans and we invent games for ourselves, there are not many games that kind of break those rules. Okay, last kind of criteria that I have here is the idea of games being too complicated. Now, being complicated isn't necessarily a bad thing. You might even consider Go to be complicated, but I'll explain why I don't think it's complicated in a bit. For example, there's this game that, a board game that I played once called Dead of Winter. That's a fairly complicated game. There are a lot of different parts to it, and you have to do many different things, and it's just kind of a lot of elements. And I think it's a very good game. But I think overall, simplicity is king when it comes to games, and the simpler the game is, the better. I'm not going to say that Euro games are better than Ameritrash games, but if the Ameritrash games can kind of have a more streamlined rule set while preserving the feel of it, it's better, right? I think overall, the move towards simplicity is better for a game. And then the branching out and making things more complicated is to add more variety and depth to the game. And so there is kind of a need for that. But it can go too far, right? You start doing that too much, it can kind of go crazy and it can get very convoluted. Now, imagine a game where Like if I'm making up a game and I'm making it very complicated for no reason, if it's tag, right? You know how to play tag, or I don't know what you call it in other countries, but it's a childhood game. You touch somebody and then they're it, and then they chase everybody else. But imagine that I'm trying to explain this game on the playground to the kids, and I'm like, okay, we're playing tag, but if you get touched on the right shoulder, you get a damage counter. You get 1 damage counter represented by a pebble. If you have 5 damage counters, you can tag someone else and give all your counters to them, or you can save up for 11 counters, buy a shield, which you get damaged again. Then you can roll 3 dice, and all of them are even numbers. Then you prevent all damage. And if you're touched on the back, you're it, but only if you've never been it before. And if you have been it before, then you have to do a trial run game where all players stop what they're doing to race from one end of the field to another. Okay, and that's the first part of the rules. Imagine that, right? There's no need for that. I mean, that breaks so many principles, and it's just adding complication without adding complexity. Now, this is what I want to talk about, is the complicated game versus the complex game, and why Go is not a complicated game. It is a complex game, which is why I think we kind of have a trouble really saying that it's a simple game, because it's not. It's complex. How can it be simple and complex at the same time? Well, it is. It's a simple game. The rules are very simple, as we all know. It's nothing kind of crazy, right? There's codes, right? There's interesting situations that come out of it, which is why it is a complex game, instead of a complicated game, where what I just imagined with the game, with the tag thing, that's a complicated game, but it's not very complex. And so, I mean, I think Go is probably one of the most complex games I've ever known. And with all of these criteria in mind, I've just kind of demonstrated over and over again why Go kind of surpasses all of these rules that I've personally made up. But to kind of leave you all with one last example, and why I think that Go is such a good game, right? Not only does it just kind of qualify as not a bad game, right? We've kind of gone through a whole bunch of things that make a game a bad game. But why it is a good game, to me at least. It's kind of because it is such a good synthesis of so many different objectives into a single complex objective. I kind of had a thought experiment of like, how do games develop, right? And why do we play games, and what do we like in games that make us want to play them? And you can kind of imagine 2 people coming up with the game for themselves, and they're like, hey, why don't we see who can throw these rocks, right? Like, we got these regularly sized rocks. Who can throw these the farthest? That's the game. And you're like, okay, great. We have a game. I'm going to throw it as far as I can. You start working on your arm technique, your throwing technique. You start defining rules, like, you got to throw before this line and such. But really what you've done is define a contest, which is slightly different from a game. No interactivity. You're just kind of testing each other's strength. And it's kind of one-dimensional. And you're kind of like, okay, this is fun, but you always win, right? You're stronger than me. So you start thinking, wait, what if we said, instead of throwing this rock as far as we can, we see who can get it closest to this target or this tree? Now you have a little more of a game, right? It's still a contest. You're seeing who can get the most accurate throw, but it's a little more interesting. Not only do you have to control the power of your throw, you have to consider like maybe even making it weaker. And then that might have a different physical manifestation. And then things get really interesting. You start saying, hold on, what if we both try to throw it at this one target that we draw on the ground, and whoever you can use your rocks to hit your other opponent's rocks into whatever position. Now, this is the beginning of a game, because there is interactivity between the players, and it starts to look a little bit like curling, right? And And then you start noticing certain things, right? Like, oh, well, if we're only throwing one rock each and I'm going first, you get to hit my rock. That's not fair. So you balance. You kind of balance those things out and say, okay, well, let's throw 5 rocks each. Let's have them alternate and let's do this and that for the, right? We do all this thing to balance it out. And then this is where things get really interesting. Imagine instead of us both hitting a single target, we each have our own target, and you can block the other player as they're trying to reach their target, and you can throw rocks to knock things out, and you start drawing boundaries, like you're not allowed to go near the target, otherwise you can move the stones around after they've landed, and you start doing all this, and you start creating some kind of weird sport that's like curling basketball or something, right? Why are we doing this? Why are we adding rules and kind of making the game into what it is when it used to just be about throwing a rock as far as we could? I think it's because we want to try to put as many elements together into one activity, into making it a complex thing where you have to consider many different things. And I think Go does that so beautifully. You have to think about so much. There's reading involved, and there's strategy involved. And if you make a certain move in one place, it ripples throughout the entire board. And you have to consider so many things to the point where you have to kind of just go by emotion sometimes. And it's kind of crazy. I think no other game really captures that feeling, and there's so many interesting things that can happen. And all of this beauty that comes out from these simple rules, I think, is what makes Go such a killer game for me. And as much as I can explain it, I'm tying this back to Mary the Color Scientist, because as much as I can try to explain why Go is a great game and what makes it a good game, what all the amazing things about it, and make the best logical arguments about it, I feel like I'm talking to Mary the Color Scientist, except she's Mary the Go Scientist, and she's learning about everything that there is to know about Go. But until she plays Go and actually sees and feels the beauty of the game, she won't really know what Go is like and why Go is so great. Because at the end of the day, what I think makes Go such a great game is the amazing treasure and amazing beauty that is hidden beneath the stones. I don't know if you can tell, but I actually think about this topic quite often. It's just natural to me. And I will watch shows, like reality shows, competition shows where there's games and such, and I will immediately just go, that's a bad game. That's a terrible game. Or even just the overall format of the show I may disagree with, and I'll just kind of look at it and go, that's not a good game. And it's just, I don't know, it's just something I guess I'm interested in. I like games, okay? I just like games. And I think because I like games so much, I think a lot about them, and I have a high standard for the game. And if there's like a loop that's not closed in a game, I will point it out, and I will say, look, the game you got here sounds fun, but there's no motivation for players X, Y, and Z to do this or that, and then they could do, it's just like where my brain goes. So with all that said, Go is so good. Go is such a good game. But now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and the tip of the day is, make your opponent uncomfortable. All right. Sometimes you run into those players and you feel like you can push them around. Like, oh, if I go here, I know what they're going to do. They're going to block that over there. If I go here, they're going to Hane down here. And if I cut here, they're going to extend over here. And you feel like you can just predict what they're going to do. And when they do that, you're just kind of like, ha ha ha. I feel so comfortable. I feel like I'm at the wheel. So don't let your opponent do that to you. Make your opponent uncomfortable. Rebel. Disobey. Don't do everything as expected. And even against strong players, especially against strong players, place that stone that they're not expecting you to place. Look at them, right? And then make them look at you with the look of, you dare defy me? Because at the end of the day, if you believe in that move, or if you at least, very least, don't know what's wrong with it, it will lead to better learning. So make your opponent uncomfortable, rebel, and disobey. Now it's time for listener mail. Sophia writes, "Good afternoon, Justin. While listening to episode 110, that's the inner versus external growth, the gaming DNA of Go players episode, the urge arose in me several times to shout Tetris toward the radio in my car. It checks all your boxes. Each play of the game has the same rules, the same controls, the same pieces, and the same random piece sorting method. The only change is interchange." I agree, it's a very interchange style game because, I mean, Tetris is Tetris, it's like, it doesn't really, I think it gets faster, but that's not really, I don't think that really counts. It gives you no handouts or upgrades, it's just you and the blocks, a joystick, and some buttons. As you get better, you can not only achieve better results, but also play harder and harder modes, such as Invisible Tetris, where the pieces disappear when you drop them in place, or Big Tetris, where the pieces are 4 times the normal size. That Invisible Tetris, that reminds me of One Color Go, which is actually a little easier than if you were to play conceptually Invisible Go, which would be wild, but also after having tried One Color Go, I find that maybe Invisible Go wouldn't be so bad, at least for a certain number of moves. Well, Sean and Tin did complete blind, not even a board, complete blind Go in that one episode, so it's possible. The Tetris the Grandmaster or TGM series of games grade your performance. The third installment in the series even gives you a so-called qualified rank, modeled after the Q-down rank system. Very cool. Thinking about TGM's ranking system led me to find Paduk and start learning how to play. Oh wow, you gatewayed from Tetris into Go. I did not know that path existed, and now I'm like, should we try to target Tetris players for playing Go? I really encourage you to experience the TGM games. They are known for producing awe-inspiring tales of legendary players. Tetris the Grandmaster 4 Absolute Eye is available on Steam for Windows computers. TGM 1 and 2 are also available on Switch and PS4. TGM is ruthless, merciless, unstoppable river of pieces, demanding dedication, concentration, and perseverance. It spares no quarter, gives no breaks, and yet it has ruined all other kinds of Tetris games for me. Nothing approaches the ecstasy of reaching the next milestone or hearing the strictest teacher deem me worthy of the next rank. Wow, that does sound very Go-like. I'm gonna be very honest here. I honestly thought the biggest thing in Tetris right now was Tetris 99, which I've played once or twice. I feel like I am a very average non-Tetris playing Tetris player. Does that make sense? Obviously an average Tetris player is way better than me, but as a casual, I'm just kind of whatever at it. But it is fun. I do enjoy the very few times that I play. And then there's some links here with some information about TGM, so I'll post some of those in the description. Anyway, thank you so much for reading this email. I really enjoy your podcast. Kind regards, Sophia. Well, thank you for writing in, and you're clearly very passionate about TGM, or Tetris the Grandmaster. I've never heard of this, honestly. I will look it up and find out what exactly the hype is about. But it seems like it's a very unlikely Go intersection Venn diagram. If you guys play this, let me know in the comments. But it sounds very interesting. Thanks for writing in again. And then Alexandra writes, "Hi Justin, my name is Alexandra, and I'm writing from Leipzig, Germany. I'm sorry if I pronounced that city name wrong. I just listened to your episode about rivalries and wanted to share a small story from my very early Go journey. I'm around 13Q. I am incredibly lucky with my club. We run a local league with 1 game per month. Oh, that's so awesome. That's what I've always wanted, to be able to go to a club with an actual league. 45 minutes main time plus 15 seconds Fisher. That's a pretty serious time control. 45. No, the last time I played a 45, might have been my first tournament that I played a 45-minute game, and then never again, because I think those just run too long. But with a local club, I can see that being manageable if you're just doing that one game per month, right? So that's awesome. I love that. And there are many other double-digit queues in it. Because it is a league game, every game feels important, and nobody gives anything away. Yeah, that's the thing. If you guys have never played a rated game with your local Go organization, I highly recommend it at least once, because it is a very, very different experience. And it just feels weightier. And if you win, that feels all the better. And if you lose, it doesn't always feel that bad. So anyway, I have two rivals. First, a player who is 11Q. For the longest time, I had never beaten her, but in our City League match, I finally managed to win. I was so happy. Congratulations, that's a huge milestone. Second, my opponent, 5Q, who is currently number 1 in the league, while I am number 2. Wow, that's awesome. So our game is literally for first place. He is often my teacher and explains many things to me, but my long-term goal is to become as good as he is, or even better. In my head, it is a bit like Hikaru and Akira, except I am pretty sure I'm not a rival to him at all, although he does respect an 8-stone handicap game. Thank you for the podcast. It really helps me stay connected to Go, even during times when I do not feel much like playing. Best, Alexandra. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with me, Alexandra. Your lovely listener mail is part of the reason why I do this. And it also helps me stay connected to Go during times when I don't feel like playing either. So, and I want to comment on your rivalry. That's how all rivalries start. All the meaningful ones, because my episode about beating Akira Toya was a far-fetched dream, and although it wasn't like the most legitimate win, although I did argue it was a very legitimate win, it was when I was like, I don't know, double-digit Q, and he was 1 done. It's like how it happened. So don't give up on that. Next, Saventus writes, this is in response to my comment about the word Cheongseok in Korean, how that's the word for Joseki. And Saventus writes, yeah, Joseki is used like that in Japanese too. And I'm not surprised. Japanese and Korean have a lot of similar things in their language, and even some of the words are identical. Thanks for that insight, Saventus. And then Rodrigo Estevam writes, I have a rivalry with a friend at the Go Club. She started to play at the same time as me a year ago, and we had a nice game where she beat me at a local tournament. Now we try to play once a month. Also, every Friday, I challenge my sensei to a handicap game, so I guess it's also a kind of rivalry. He'll be back in Japan. We're in Brazil this year. No, he'll be back to Japan, parentheses, we're in Brazil, this year. So I want to reduce as much stones as possible, even if I'm still at 9 for now. Yeah, one of my buddies, we played correspondence over and over again, and he would beat me over and over again. I think I refused to take handicap, which, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, because it's like, you want to play regular Go too. When you play handicap Go, things get very murdery, at least with him. But anyway, finally, we have Sadaharu writing, I think having a lifetime rival is nice because you guys can motivate each other to continue playing and getting stronger, just like Hikaru and Akira. By the way, surely Akira Toya is not your rival's real name, right? Laughing emoji. No, so that's not how it works at all. You're supposed to pick a rival who isn't motivated to play any further so that you can catch up to them, which is what I did. And to comment on Akira Toya, that's not his full name. His full name is my arch rival and nemesis, Akira Toya. So just to clear that up with you. The question of the week this week: what makes Go a good game to you? Or what makes a game good? Like, did I cover something? Did I not cover something that you thought about? So let me know your thoughts on that question. Or if you have anything else Go related to share, leave a comment wherever you found this episode, or email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointpaduk I'm sorry. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. I will prioritize the emails to be kind of, I always read everything I can, but emails go first. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. And if you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. A very, very special thank you, as always, to James B., Brandon S., Tristan, Jeff H., and Tyraniton for supporting Starpoint. Thank you guys so much. If you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to kofi.com/starpointbaduk. That's KO-FI. Or check out the Starpoint store at store.starpointbaduk.com. And come on over to the Discord. The link is in the description. You know, I once saw a Go variant played by a couple of old men at the park. It's not a sight you see very often. You don't really see even chess players, but I saw these old men playing at the park, and when I approached, I noticed they were using something very unconventional to play. They were using snail shells as Go stones. Very pretty. They had black ones and white ones. I don't know how they colored it, but they say that they called it escargot. Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep playing Go.